Hey guys, welcome back to the Home Turf. Hopefully you're doing good and having a great day. I love you all and I'm so glad you could join me. We're talking about overcoming fears today. And it's a topic that I'm excited to talk with you about because I have a couple of stories of my own to share with you. And I would like to go into a little bit of a deep dive with you to either help you overcome your fears if you're having trouble with that, or to kind of help you understand how someone reacts to fear and ultimately what it takes to overcome it. Obviously, I'm not a professional. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. But as someone who has been through fear a number of times and have had to overcome it, even from an early age, I have a lot to say on it. And I think you guys would benefit from hearing what I have to say. And so fear is one of the hardest, I would say the hardest emotion to manage, because fear is an instinctual reaction that's supposed to be to our benefit. But oftentimes can lead to our detriment. And this is more specific to men, but for my boys, listen, you cannot let fear define you. You have to overcome fear, not fear overcoming you. The reason for that is because in times of emergencies, everyone else is going to look to you to handle business. And if you are not doing that because you're letting the fear control you, you're not seen as a man, and someone else will step up because someone has to step up, right? In times of emergencies, the women, the children, they will always look to the men to take care of business, right? To make sure that everything is fine or will turn out fine, right? Good example, home invasion, right? You have on one hand a guy who takes care of his shit, right? A guy who practices, trains. That's why I tell you to train in everything. Hand-to-hand combat, knives, just blades in general, small arms, right? Stuff like that. You have a guy who does all that and does not let the fear consume him and takes care of the situation, right? On the other hand, you have a guy who doesn't, right? Doesn't train at all. Has no idea how to handle a firearm, and ultimately leads to two different situations. Now, you tell me which one is the man. This guy, right? Yeah. So, society will always dictate, especially men, who a man is and who isn't, right? The reason why men are so hard on each other is because we have high standards for each other, right? If one man is falling short, that means someone has to pick up the pace somewhere else. And typically the guy that's falling short gets a lot of shit for it, right? Again, because there's an image that must be maintained, right? Society will always dictate that image. And based on the image that society has for certain individuals, i.e. men and women, will determine how well that society runs. Why do you think our nation is on the decline now? Because men are not men today and women are not women today. So, we've already talked a lot about that here on the Home Turf. So, you absolutely must overcome fear. It's a non-negotiable, right? But on the other side of that as well, women, listen, if you're a man, is overcoming those fears and he's risking his life for you or for the family, or the family, you must support him 100%. And listen, what a lot of people misunderstand about good men is that we do everything in our power that we can for the women that we appreciate or the families that we appreciate. But do not mistake a good man for a weak man, because in those situations, if you are not supporting him 100%, don't be surprised if he picks someone else who does. Just saying, right? So what does that mean to support him 100%? If he needs help, you better help him. Okay? That means if he needs someone to call 911, you're calling 911. Okay? You're staying as calm and as collected as you possibly can. Even if the kids are screaming, if there are kids, or even if your mind is going, 900 miles an hour, you must stay calm and collected while he's handling the shit, okay? The hard shit, right? Because sometimes in home invasions, you might have to take a life. And it's a little bit of an extreme example, but it's one of the best examples out there, because that is real world shit, and that happens a lot, right? And so that's when the most primitive, right? The most primitive, I don't want to say instincts, but the most primitive actions or decisions that we make, right? Really comes out, right? Or nature, there we go. The most primitive nature comes out, and it really defines who we are. And so in those situations, maybe he might need some help, right? Physically, okay? Maybe he got hit, and you gotta step up now. Maybe, right, he's handling everything just fine, and you again need to call 911 or emergency personnel, right? Law enforcement, medical, fire, whatever. And so again, remain calm. Okay, I understand it's a stressful situation, but that's what it means to support. In times of disasters, right? Fires, stuff like that. If he's running into a burning building, right? Go and do your best to see if you can grab some water, right? Something to soothe him when he comes out, right? Because it takes a hero, really, to do things like that, right? To risk your life for someone else. And listen, not every man can or does that, right? And this is where we're talking about fear. As I was saying earlier, the human condition is always to make decisions to benefit itself, right? To pursue pleasure and avoid pain. And again, fear is one of those emotions that dictates, our actions, right, to that endeavor. And so, but when we're talking about situations and emergencies, such as disasters, right? Maybe going into a burning building and caught fire from a forest fire or something like that, or a home invasion, right? It's that fear that we must put aside, right? We recognize, right? The pathways are going off, receiving signals and everything like that to run because of the fight or flight instinct. But we set the fear aside, and we have to do what we have to do. Notice how I was talking about the fight or flight instinct. Men more often, right, have that fight instinct instead of the flight instinct. Maybe not so much today, but the fight instinct, absolutely. We are moreover going to choose aggression versus retreat, right? Again, because we've had to brave the world for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, that that innate decision making is within us, right? But it's not just it's not so much instinctual, but it's more so developed, right? Because even though fear is something that is instinctual, learning to overcome the fear, right, to do what needs to be done is something that is developed. And this is why fathers are so important. Well, good fathers, strong fathers who are capable of protecting, guiding, and providing, obviously. That's why they're so important, because they instill stuff like this in their sons. Women get more of a leeway when it comes to overcoming fear or not. Listen, ladies, you have more of a support group than men do. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Men are expected to do these things. Women are not expected to do the things that men do, and so you get more of a leeway, right? But by no means does that mean that you don't support him, when you are overcome by fear, because that must happen as well. Obviously, if he chose you for a lifelong partner, there's teamwork there. There's a team, and you must play your part. You must put effort in as well. And if someone isn't, and if you're not doing that, then what's the point of the team, right? And so you cannot let fear overcome you either. But also understand is that, again, you have more of a leeway because you don't have the same roles as men do. And so just so I'm not circling and going on a rant, men have their image, women have theirs, and it's worked this way for thousands and thousands of years, right? That's why we've survived and thrived, right? Progressed as a species as long as we have. And so overcoming fear is something that really takes a lot of mental strength, obviously. It's something that you just must put aside, right? And when your mind is screaming at you to run away, to stop doing what you're doing, to not do what you're about to do, right? Maybe you're, thinking about starting up a YouTube channel. I know of a family member who was actually talking about starting a YouTube channel, and a anti-MLM channel, and I thought that was a great idea. Great idea. But again, the fear got to her, and I said, "Hey, look, you can't let fear control you." And so I don't think I really got too deep into the fear topic, but I'm glad I brought that up because understandable, right? As I was saying earlier, women have a different image than men, obviously, and fear is something that doesn't really pertain so much to women. But I mean, it does, but it doesn't pertain as much as men does. So maybe again, you're starting up a YouTube channel and you're thinking, oh man, maybe I really shouldn't do this because I don't know how my friends are going to think about it. I don't know how my family's going to think about it. And I don't know what's going to happen if I put my face on the internet. Well, here's the thing, is that what happens if you don't? Is this something that you really want to do? And if it is, what is scarier to you? The possibility of you changing someone's life for the better, or the fact that you never did anything at all. And so Here's the thing that you might have to do to rewire your brain, essentially. Um, Become more fearful of letting fear overcome you, right? And it's kind of a weird concept, but let me break it down. Um, you're scared of doing something, but think about what happens if you don't do it, or what happens if you do it, right? Um, just depending on the situation, the scenario. But particularly to this scenario, um, like I was saying, I as a small YouTuber, I'm not anything, you know, really special as of yet. But I mean, as YouTube goes, but um, I've had people come to me and they've told me that the things that I've said, the things that I've done, I've really helped them in their lives, and knowing that I have that kind of effect on people because of the decisions that I've made in overcoming the fear to do what I do here on YouTube. Um, that has absolutely really changed my thinking process, because I realized that had I not done that, someone would have made that mistake and they would have regretted it. And it's the fear of letting someone down, the fear of someone living the same mistake that I did, that I could save them from. That is the fear. Um, the fear of never doing something at all, the fear of not overcoming fear. Fearception. you know and so there's too much to do, there's too much to say, there's too much to share, right, to let it go to waste. And so um you cannot back down, you cannot even budge when it comes to fear. You just have to do it. I mean, there's really nothing much more to say on it than just do it, even if it's something small. Maybe it's getting up and talking to that girl over there. I've done that before. You get shot down, you get shot down, man. Everybody gets shot down, right? And so, and each time you overcome that fear, you become stronger and stronger and stronger, right? And it's small victories, and it builds confidence. It's one of the biggest things that builds confidence, right? And people will begin to see that. I'll tell you not the scariest that I've been in my life, because the scariest I've been in my life was actually a part of a ghost story that I'm going to tell. But one of the scariest that I've been in my life was getting on a plane and going to San Antonio, Texas for basic training. The reason why so many people let fear overcome them is because of the uncertainty, right, of what is in front of them. And so there was a huge question mark, when I was getting to San Antonio. I had watched videos over basic training, and I had a little bit of an understanding, but to get the best experience, you got to go through it, right? Or I should say, the best information, you've got to experience it and go through. You got to go through it yourself. And so it was incredibly scary, right? It was also the first time that I had flown in a plane, and so there were a lot of fears that I had to conquer. A fear of heights. I don't like heights. I hate heights. But let me tell you something. It may be a fear of yours, but it might be something that you enjoy, because of that experience, someday I would like to learn how to pilot. Um, it's something about it's a different perspective, you know. You're going up in the air and you're seeing the world from a different perspective, and it just makes you think that the world is small, but so are your problems, and your problems can be overcome, right? They absolutely can. You just have to have the self-confidence, right? And the assuredness within yourself to just do it, especially when it comes to fear. And so I just went and did it. I just did it. I put the fear completely to the forethought, and I let my excitement take over. If you let your excitement take over, your curiosity, your wonder, right? Or thoughts of duty to the family, thoughts of duty to yourself, it helps. It really does. I was talking about rewiring your brain earlier. That kind of really helps to overcome the fear. And it did absolutely for me. And I went, obviously, graduated basic training, graduated technical school for security forces. And then I went to Osan Air Force Base. That was my first base in Korea. The day I got my orders to go to Korea, I was terrified. And I was terrified all the way throughout Korea too, because obviously, well, you never know if bombs are going to be dropped on you, because KJU is, that's one crazy fucker. And so, it was a crazy time, and it was a fearful time, especially with how, high the tensions were and in over there in that specific time that I was there. But again, I just went and I did it. I put the fear to the back burner. And again, I let my curiosity, my duty to the pride and duty to myself, to my nation, to my family, I let that override the fear, right? And so when you're replacing one emotion, or excuse me, when you're putting one emotion away, you have to replace it with something else, right? And if you replace a negative emotion with a positive emotion, right, at that point in time, it's going to be an incentive for you to do, right, what you have to do, right? And so when I got there, I had experienced, once in a lifetime thing. I went to the Olympics, the 2018 Olympics in, was that Pyeongchang? I think it was Pyeongchang, wasn't it? And it was awesome. I got to see the half. I got to see the half pipe. That was crazy. And so I got to see Busan. I got to see Seoul. Went to Seoul Tower. There was a lot of cool things that I went and did, right? And so when it comes to fear, it's not all negative. There's going to be some positive, right? If you look for the positive. And so there are some great benefits to overcoming fear. And these are some of the benefits. The wonder, or just the adventure, what you stand to gain, what you learn from the experience overall, right? I learned a lot about myself, throughout this time. Well, I guess I did, but looking back now, learning even more than what I did then, What I learned then was, oh, well, I guess it wasn't really that bad. Um, no, it was bad. Now the terrifying thing is the 15, 16 hour flight. That's what's terrifying. I don't know if I don't know if I'll ever overcome that fear. That flight sucked, dude. Um, but all joking aside, I learned something about myself. And it's just fear is a necessary emotion. It is. Because there are some times, right, that fear is used to your benefit, right, and something that you should definitely take into consideration, right? Sometimes you have to retreat. Sometimes, right? And it makes sense. Good example, very good example is if you're in the wrong side of the neighborhood, and you have a gut feeling telling you telling you that something isn't right, right? You start to become fearful. And you should really listen to that, and you should get out, right? That's a good example, a very good example of letting that fear guide your decisions in that point in time. Because obviously you're just one dude, right? And you never know what's going to happen in that bad part of the neighborhood. So it's good to get out of Dodge. But in cases where, excuse me, but in cases where you must defend your family, you absolutely have to overcome that fear, right? And so don't ever, ever let fear overcome you. You overcome the fear. But also understand that fear is there for your benefit, okay? So listen to it, take it into consideration, but don't ever, ever, ever let it control you. You control it. So hopefully I was able to help you understand at least a little bit. Again, I'm not a professional, but as someone who has been through fear a number of times, and have had to overcome the fear, hopefully I was able to help you somewhere along the way, right? If you guys happen to have anything specific that you would want me to talk about, because it is a little bit of a broad topic, let me know and I'll be more than happy to cover it. Also, please, guys, if you happen to have your own experiences that you would like to share, please do. We're all here to benefit, okay? So also, let me know what your thoughts on this. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. I want to hear from all of you, okay? I read the comments, I respond to them, and so I'm very, very excited to have you guys voice your opinions and to see what you guys have to say. So make sure you are taking care of yourselves, okay, both mind and body. I've been struggling, with mental health, these past few days, pretty bad. And so I didn't make it out to the gym, but I did work up a sweat today. Not much of one, but I did work up a sweat, and I got some things done. And so I'm trying to not let my PTSD and everything like that affect me so much, especially since I'm fighting it and I'm trying to do better, and I'm trying to get to a better place mentally, but it often gets worse before it gets better, and so that's the plan, right? And again, just been struggling here. And so I would definitely appreciate some words of encouragement, guys. You guys have lifted me up out of bad situations, and I appreciate that. I really do. And so I ask that you would keep supporting me, because my door is always open for you. And so just keep that in mind, guys. All right. Thank you so much for all that you do. Don't just look after yourselves, okay? But look after each other. All right. We're we're all here to lift each other up. We're all here to benefit each other, right? And so just keep that in mind. Please, if you have to talk to someone, talk to somebody. Absolutely. Don't be afraid. Again, don't be afraid of talking to someone. Okay? If you have to talk to a professional, go talk to someone. Okay? I'm talking to a professional right now, and I don't feel shame about it at all. Right? Sometimes you just need help. So don't be fearful, man. Like I was saying, overcome that fear. So again, thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you so much. You guys are the goats. Thank you. I appreciate every single one of you. I love you all. I wish you a happy day. And I'll talk to you guys soon.